All right, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to talk about some motivation. We're going to talk about some meditation. We're going to talk about some inspiration. If it's not one of the three, I don't want it. We're going to get down with that focus, knowledge, and discipline, utilizing what we have inside, utilizing our challenges, utilizing our abilities. Once again, it's another wonderful day. We're here focusing, putting ourselves in a place where we're utilizing our gifts, utilizing our challenges. Sometimes we feel like we're going to get kicked to the ground. Sometimes we feel like, it's not going to work. Sometimes we feel like it's not possible. But if we continue to grind, if we continue to put ourselves in that kind of mentality, if we continue to work through our challenges and to believe in ourselves and to believe in our abilities, then we can overcome challenges. And some of the challenges we might be going through today, we just don't feel like we can make it through. And I'm here to tell you it's possible, and I'm here to tell you that you can do it, that what you have inside and what you have going on around you is in your mind, and that you have the ability to overcome these things. And when you sit down and you set down barriers in front of yourself and you say, I'm going to break these barriers, what are those barriers that you're breaking? What are the things that you're working on? What are the things that you you want to overcome? And so here we are today, looking at that, focusing on the ability inside of ourselves and inside of our mentality. And it comes from within who we are. It comes from, you know, believing in yourself and putting yourself in a place where it isn't about somebody else. It's about you and your journey, and it's about you and your path, and giving yourself a bit of time, giving yourself a bit of being, a bit of you. And it's inside of ourselves that we seek that place. It's inside of ourselves that we seek that that mentality, and as we focus, as we put ourselves in a place where we start to utilize that, we start to utilize the being within ourselves, and we start to manifest from within out, and we truly sit down and we start to grind, we start to ask those types of questions, and sometimes they're not easy. Sometimes the questions that we're asking ourselves is what I'm going to do today, is it motivation? Is it meditation? Is it inspiration? Because if it's not one of the three, I don't want it. And I ask myself that question every day. I get down with that part inside, and I start to sit down and start to realize that what really matters is what's going on inside. What really matters is that we can overcome our challenges, and that we can put ourselves in a place where our mentality starts to open up and our ability inside. And it's not always going to be easy when you're facing off against those kinds of challenges. And sometimes they might be emotional, sometimes they might be physical, sometimes they might be mental. And as we work through our challenges, as we put ourselves in a place where we can go through them, as we put ourselves in a place where we face off against them, we seek out who we are on the inside, we seek out that ability. And as we are focusing to that place, as we're putting ourselves in that kind of a place where we can believe in ourselves, and how do we start to do that? How do we start to overcome the things that we just don't know how to? And so how do we start to write it down and to start to put ourselves on a page where we can be, where we can truly manifest? And it's inside of who we are that that we can do that, and I look at this, I look at these things that I go through and that I see other people go through, and I look at these challenges and I see the preparation and I see the focus and the knowledge within the challenges, and I'm sitting here in front of you guys today. I'm sitting here focusing on that. I'm focusing on the positivity, focusing on the ability within ourselves. And, it's not like I have the best equipment. I'm sitting here using a cell phone signal. It's when we're willing to do it even when it's difficult, when we just don't even know if there's a way and we still find a way. And I I look at what we can do and how we can get through these kinds of challenges that we face off against on a daily basis, and I'm looking at what we can do to focus into positivity, to focus in to the ability inside of ourselves, and to utilize the gifts that we have inside. And I look at how the challenges that we're facing off against are just in our minds. And you might be in a profession right now where you might be facing off against challenges that you don't know if you can overcome. And you know you might be asking if it's possible to overcome those kinds of challenges. And I sit here in front of you and I ask those same questions sometimes. How do we find the ability inside of ourselves to start making things possible? How do we find the ability inside of ourselves to start to believe? And I recognize that it is just doing that. It's as simple as believing in yourself and believing in your ability and believing in your mentality. And I I look at what I've achieved and what I've gone through, and I look at the challenges that are being faced off against, and it's inside, and it's inside of the focus. Is when you start to become positive that you start to get those promotions in life. It's when you start to utilize the gifts and the abilities that you have. And you know I I recognize that not every day will be easy. And I sit here in front of you and I'm speaking out in my mind. I'm speaking out my ability within, and I'm believing in myself and my mentality, and it's from within ourselves that we seek approval. It's from within ourselves that we seek a place, and when I sit down and I do meditation, or when I'm working with people, or I'm working with the ability inside of ourselves, and and it doesn't happen all at one time. It takes time. It takes patience, and and it's not easy. Okay, is what I'm trying to say is that when you're facing off against true challenges, when you're facing off against things within you, when you're going through things that you don't know if you can make it through, it only comes to you when those challenges come. It comes to you when you don't know if you can do it, if you can make it through it. And I sit here and I think about that, and I think about the blessings and the things that I go through, and I think about the people that I enjoy to have in my life and that are part of this vibration. And I sit down and I grind, and I put it into a place of positivity, and and I'm a human. It's not perfect. I'm not perfect, but yet if I can yet but share that with you, and that I can start to work on those abilities, and I could yet but inspire you, or I could help you to figure out a way to go within, to start to manifest from within your being, to manifest from within your purpose. And it doesn't happen always at the time that you're seeking for it to happen. Sometimes you have to wait some time for things to happen. You have to focus into your place, into your own lane, into your own journey, and it's not always going to be easy. Sometimes to be yourself is a difficult task. See, a lot of people, they try to act like everything is okay. They try to act like they have the ability, or but it's when we're truly utilizing that, when we're truly utilizing the part of ourselves, when we're truly utilizing the part of our being, and we're using our focus, and we're using our knowledge within ourselves. And so how do we how do we focus to that level? How do we start to do that when things are challenging us and they're trying to tear you down? And how do you start to sit down inside of yourself a little bit each day and work through those types of things, and I recognize that in our professions that place lays. I recognize that in our homes that place lays, and it's not always when you are asking it to happen. It takes time. It takes patience to be who you are. It takes a place of understanding, and a place of purpose, and a place of your journey. And it's inside of believing in yourself. It's inside of believing that it's possible, that even though you have challenges, that you could continue, that you could make amazing things happen. And there's a lot of beauty in this world. There's a lot of people that just don't see themselves. And how do we start to? How do we start to use our gifts? How do we start to use our talents? How do we start to use our abilities, and to just sit down and to be who we are on the inside? And that's what I'm looking at today. I'm looking at that place where it comes from within who we are, and I seek that mentality, and I want to motivate you to become that, to get to that place where you're focused, where you're reading stuff, where you're writing stuff, where you're believing in you, where you're believing in your abilities, where your challenges no longer have that ability to stop you. And it doesn't happen when you're seeking it. It happens when you're focusing on your path. It's when you're going through that part of your journey, when it's not always easy. And so how do we start to allow those type of things to move out of the way so that positivity could start flowing within us? How do we start to utilize that part of our being, and how do we start to utilize that part of our purpose, and how do you use that part of your journey when things aren't working the way you're seeking for them to? And so this is what this is about. It's about recognizing that when you allow the things that aren't meant for you to move out of the way, that the things that are positive have the ability to start filling in the place. They have the ability to start becoming utilized. And I see that a lot of times we stop ourselves from that place, and I want you to see that it's possible for you to reach that place. I want you to see that it's possible for you to overcome those kind of challenges, and that it's within your mentality, it's within your ability to do so as well. And I'm sitting here today, in a place of focus, in a place of mentality, and in a place of ability, and I'm asking the questions to you guys. What is it that makes you focus? What is it that brings you closer to your being? What is it that when you start to do these types of things, bring you closer to you. And I'm sitting here today, and I'm looking at it, and I'm studying it, and and as I'm sitting here, I'm recognizing that we have that ability inside of ourselves, and I'm looking at how to be more patient, and to start to be grateful for the little things that I have, and that the people that are a part of my life, and that are a part of this journey, and that are a part of this path are worth it. And I I see that this type of mentality and this type of ability is how we start to grow. And I recognize sitting down and working on yourself is worth it, and sitting down and grinding on your challenges, and believing in yourself and believing in your abilities. And I sit down today, and as I do almost every day, asking the question, is what I'm doing today, is it motivation, is it meditation, is it inspiration? As if it's not one of the three, what is it? And that's exactly the question I ask myself today. How do I focus towards positivity when everything is not working? And this is how, by putting yourself in that place, by putting yourself in that place of positivity, by putting yourself in that place where you have the ability, where your mentality has the ability to overcome your challenges, where you focus to that point where you have yourself, where you have your being, where what you're going through doesn't have the ability to stop you. And I sit down, and I put out these videos, and I put out these videos on a daily basis. And what are they for? They're for you, they're for me, they're for the ability that one day you might be able to hear this message when you're down, where you might be able to be uplifted, where what you're going through you can overcome. And so I sit here, and I start to recognize that, and I start to sit here, and I start to understand that. And it's a part of ourselves, it's a part of our beings. It's when you start to believe in you, it's when you start to believe it's possible. And even just a little bit in yourself, just a little bit of your being. And I recognize that it's not always going to be easy, my friends. It was never meant to be easy. It's always going to be a challenge. And it's when we focus to that point where we have that ability to overcome those challenges. And it's inside of that place that we can find ourselves. It's inside of that place where we can find who we are, and truly start to use that gifts that we have, and start to truly use those talents and those abilities that we have it in. And it's worth it. And I'm telling you that when you're focusing to that point where you have that ability, where you have that mentality, then you will overcome your challenges. When you're putting yourself in a place where you become focused, where if you don't know if there's a way, then you'll make a way, or you'll find a way. And this can be in your professions too. I think of a person as to making a tool for the first time, as to giving themselves the ability to start to utilize their gifts. And I look at, what kind of gifts do we have? What kind of talents do we have? And if you needed a tool, and you didn't know how to, and you didn't the tool wasn't available at the store, or in your tool bag, would you have the ability to make that tool? Would you have that ability to sit down and to start to utilize that part of yourself? And I sit down, and I use those kind of tools, and I want to motivate you to focus, to use your tools. I want you to start to see that you have a tool bag, that you have gifts, that you have talents, that what you're going through you can make it through. And so, what kind of tools are you using today? What kind of things are you using in your day? And what kind of places are you seeking to go? What kind of challenges are you looking to go through? And takes that part of our being, it takes that part of our purpose, it takes that part of our journey, and it's not only going to happen when you want it to, it's going to happen in the time in your path where it's meant to happen. And it's an embracing of that and turning all those things positive, and taking them and looking at how you can start to utilize them, and you can start to believe in yourself just a little bit, and how can we start to turn those things positive when they're not, when they're not working in a positive direction? Can we still see that even when they're not, might not be a positive way, that you can still keep a positive mentality, that you could still sit down in front, you could still continue to focus, and what about when your boss is yelling at you, or your family, or your kids, or your companions? When do you start to become positive? When do you start to see the positive part of them in your journey? When do you start to see the positive part of your families, and in that? And you see, negativity is going to come, it's going to try to tear you down, it's going to try to hold you back, it's going to try to stop you. And are you going to let yourself go through it? Are you going to let yourself get to the point where you're so positive that you could see it, and that you could become it, and that you can manifest it? And so I sit here and I think about that. I think about what we're going to do, and how we're going to do things, and when is it possible? And I sit here and I hear people say, you won't be able to do that, you won't make that happen, it's not possible. And I continue to grind, I continue to put out videos, I continue to move forward in that direction, I continue to realize that this is the purpose, that I am here to uplift you, that when we're working with people, when we're working with abilities inside of ourselves, when we're working with mentality, when we're believing that we are who we are, and that we can make it through the things that we do, and it comes from that part of who we are, that we start to believe in ourselves. It comes from that part of who we are, where we have that ability inside of ourselves. And that is your right. It's a God-given right for you to be you. It's a God-given right for you to face off against your challenges, and to be nothing more and nothing less than you. It's when you are being yourself, it's when you are facing off against things, it's when you you are not tearing down yourself, and you're building yourself up. It's when you're putting yourself in a place where your mentality has the ability to grow. And it happens not by ease. It happens sometimes by challenges. It happens sometimes not when you're seeking for it to happen. And how do we start to see the positive things that happen in our lives, the positive things that happen in our abilities? And how do we start to have the place where nobody else can go, and that is within ourselves? How do we build that part? How do we start to overcome those kind of challenges? And it's inside of who we are, it's inside of our beings, it's inside of our vibrations. And we are focused. Where are you focused? What are you focused on? What is it that you're focused with? What do you see in that dark night? Asking yourself that type of question. How do you see yourself picking you up? What is it that you see yourself becoming? And I see that little bits that are movement. I see that little bits that are happening. I see that little bits that are bringing things closer to being, that are bringing things closer to vibration. I see that what we're doing, and how we're becoming, and what we're manifesting, and it happens from within. It happens from within your ability. It happens from within your mentality. And I sit here and I focus on that. I focus on that ability within. I focus on that ability within the mentality. And I'm sitting here and I'm grinding, and I feel like even with nothing, we have everything. And so, are you doing that with your day? Are you being appreciative of the things that you have? Are you being appreciative of the days that you go through? Are you giving yourself that kind of a place where you can do that, where you could truly be who you are on the inside, where you can truly be who you are and face off against the things that you face off against? And I'm focused on that. I'm focused on that ability within, and that mentality to continue to grind when it's other people might think it's not possible. And I could tell you that it's worth it. I could tell you that when you're facing off against challenges, I could tell you that when you're facing off against things within who you are and within your being and within your purpose, that you can overcome your challenges. I remember being in a time and in a place where, I cared about others more than myself. I remember caring about other people more than me and putting myself last. And when do you start putting yourself in a place where you're being yourself, and the people that are part of you and that are around you are letting you be who you are, and and starting to turn things in a positive direction, and starting to utilize that part of your being and that part of your purpose and that part of your journey. And it happens with subtlety. It happens with the ability to be still, to be observant, to be who you are on the inside, to face off against the things. And that and I sit here and I focus on that, and I recognize that place, and I recognize that ability. And it's when we're doing that, my friends, that things happen. And it's when we're doing that that we start to achieve it, and we start to overcome it. And it happens so fast. Sometimes it happens in such a way that it starts to ask those types of questions, and it starts to get down with those kind of challenges. And it's on a daily that we seek that place. And I'm I'm in that place now, and I'm looking at that kind of time, and I'm on that kind of a grind. And you know and a lot of people ask, how does that fit into the professional aspect? How does that fit into your professions? And it definitely does. How do you grind? How do you start to get to the top of your profession? How do you start to get to the top of your skills? And it only happens when you're willing to pick yourself up, when you're willing to get up when other people would feel like you're falling apart. And it takes a person within. It takes a person within their mentality, within their ability to believe in themselves. And it and I'm looking at that time getting ready to happen, and I'm looking at those people that I want to take with me. And I look at motivation, meditation, inspiration, and I look at this group that's growing, and it's almost at 3,000 members, at 2,600 members. And we're getting bigger day by day. And it's happening. And I want you to recognize that. If you're on my YouTube, Facebook, Periscope, Twitter, Instagram, to subscribe and start to listen in on these challenges and these things that you can do and that you can become. And when we're putting things down and we're writing it down, we're putting ourselves in a place where we truly believe in ourselves. And when we truly start to believe in our abilities, and we start to believe in our mentalities, and we start to believe that we're worth it, and that we can overcome those kinds of challenges. And so how do we start to use that? How do we start to get inwards? How do we start to focus to the point where we allow the things to move out of the way that's not for us? How do we start to put ourselves in a place where our diets start to work, and our abilities from within start to happen, and our mentalities start to open up? And it's inside of that we can become. It's inside of that we can utilize. It's inside of that we can overcome. And it happens in a way in which we have to seek it, and it happens in a way in which we can overcome it. And I'm sitting down today with all that I have is myself, and all that I have is my being and vibration. And I'm sitting down here and I'm looking at what it takes to get inwards, what it takes to overcome, what it takes to manifest from within your being and manifest from within your purpose. And I'm sitting here and I'm asking those same questions of you. What is it to get inwards? What does it take to sit down with yourself and to give yourself just a little bit of time? And it it happens so fast that the things that are beautiful can be there one day and gone the next. But what is it that continues to keep you determined? What is it that continues to drive you, that continues to bring you up and continues to bring you closer to your ability? And are we doing that? Are we sitting inside of our being? Are we becoming a part of our emotions? Are we elevating our mentalities? Are we putting ourselves on a place where we have the ability? And every day I sit down and I do this, and I tell you that if you get inwards, you can do it. And I say that to myself too. And as I'm getting ready to sit down and do breath work, as I'm getting ready to sit down and utilize that student and that teacher within, as I'm getting ready to be who I am on the inside and to use that part of my being and that part of a purpose and that part of a journey. Are you doing the same? Are you giving yourself that kind of space? Are you giving yourself that kind of purpose? Are you giving yourself that part of your journey? And it takes that belief in yourself. It takes that belief in your ability, and it's not easy to want to sit down and study yourself. Sometimes it's difficult to sit down and truly get inwards, to truly sit down and overcome the emotions, to overcome the pains, to overcome the fears, and to really believe in oneself. And it is within that place that we can go. It's within that place that we can manifest. It's within that place that we can have that ability. And it takes that person inside of who you are. It takes that person inside of your being. It takes that person inside of your purpose. And it is on that part of within who you are that you start to study you, my friends. And you have to become that kind of student of your life. Whatever you want to do, whatever you want to become, it comes from within you. It comes from within your being. It comes from within your purpose. And we have challenges and we have things that we can work on. We have things that we can overcome. And are we doing that? Are we truly getting inwards to face off against those pains, to face off against those emotions, to face off against those fears? And are we giving ourselves that kind of a place where we have that inside of who we are, where we are believing in ourselves, where we are believing in our dreams, where we are believing in our goals, where we are manifesting from within, where we can overcome our challenges? And it happens on a daily. It happens within ourselves. It happens within our beings. And it takes that part of your grind. It takes that part of your self to get inwards, to start to care about you, to start to care just a little bit about yourself, and to care about how you're facing off against things. And it takes that part of who you are on the inside to believe in you. And I sit here and I study on a daily how to do that, how to get down with that part of the energy within, to get down with that person on the inside, and to start to face off against those challenges that we all face off against on a daily basis. And it it takes that part of ourselves to believe in ourselves And when we start to believe in ourselves, it's it's when we study, okay? It's when we sit down with who we are inside, and we start to use that part of the energy within. And you know it and it's when we wake up to that kind of energy, when we wake up to that part of ourselves, when we start waking up inside, and we start focusing to that part of this path, and we start to get through that part of our journey. And it's inside of who you are that you start to become best friends with yourself. You hearing what I'm saying? You got to become best friends with who you are on the inside. You got to believe that you're worth it, and that your challenges can be overcome, and that you can do things that other people called impossible. And it is possible for you to be who you are. It is possible for you to be who you are on the inside, and to believe in yourselves, and to believe in your abilities. And when you start to study that, when you start to become centered within you, when you start to use the things that you have, and the abilities that you have, and the mentalities that you have, when you start to believe that you have what it takes, that what you have going on you can overcome. And it is inside of ourselves that we light up in this world from that place. It's inside of our beings that we start to see that kind of energy flow. We start to see that kind of ability flow. And it's inside of who we are that we can do that. It's inside of who we are that we can overcome that. And it takes that place, and that kind of understanding, and that kind of purpose, and that kind of path to want to get inwards to that place, to want to start to study oneself, and to start to want to become a student and a teacher within. And it's what I'm doing right here, right now. And you're hearing what I'm saying, and you can too. And you can sit down inside of yourself, and you can find the light inside of you, and you can find the purpose inside of you, and you can find that part of your journey, and you can find that part of your path, and you can find that part of your purpose. And we all have that purpose. We all have that part inside of ourselves that says, I want to become this, and I want to do this. But are we doing it? Are we truly sitting down to that place where our focus and our knowledge are becoming, and where we are understanding, and we're gaining access to the light within, and gaining access to the purpose within ourselves? And it happens from within who we are. And it's not always easy. It's not always going to happen the day that you want it to happen. It sometimes takes time. It sometimes takes patience. It takes believing that you're worth it. And so how do we start to believe at that level? How do we start to believe at that part of our being, and start to believe that we can overcome those kinds of challenges? And I focus into that kind of a place where I seek out that, and I seek out that ability inside of myself, and I look at what it takes to get there. And if I could yet but inspire you to get inwards, to get to that point where you're believing in you, where you have that ability inside of yourself to know that you're worth it. And it doesn't just happen by accident. When you start to study yourself, when you start to light up inside of you, and you start to light up inside of your ability. And so let's go ahead and start talking about how we can connect these things, how we can use our selves, and use our beings, and use our study, and our student and our teachers within ourselves, within our purpose, to uplift other people, to bring ourselves closer to that place where other people would, just feel just a little bit closer to themselves, to have just a little bit of care for themselves. And we've seen people across the face of the planet that have used their focus, that have used their knowledge, that have used their ability, and who are who they are on the inside, and who they want to become, and who they want to manifest. And it takes that part of ourselves, it takes that part of our being, it takes that part of our purpose, and that part of our journey. And it's not just going to happen for you. It takes, becoming disciplined. It takes truly sitting down inside it and using that part of your gifts and that part of your talents. And I recognize that it's not always going to be easy to use your gifts and your talents, and it's not always going to be easy. There's going to be people that are going to try to shut you down, or try to stop you, or try to hold you back. And it's when you start to want to overcome it. It's when you start to want to become it. It's when you start to want to face off against it. And and it's with that kind of discipline that other people become inspired. It's with that kind of discipline that the universe starts moving to your direction. It's with that kind of discipline that you start to have that kind of ability, and that kind of purpose starts to open up, and that kind of place starts to open. And it's with that kind of discipline that we start to recognize it's worth it, and that you're worth it. And so, how are we doing that today, my friends? And how are we getting down with that part of who we are on the inside? And and how do we start to become that kind of blessing? Hello. Hello.
How to do in this time nowadays? Look.
Huh? Blessings. Where are we calling from?
I'm from India, in this Delhi. Which country do you belong from, me?
I live in Arizona.
And you, which country do you belong from?
I live in the U.S.
US. Yeah, okay. United States. And this nowadays celebration, which type in this Holi?
Well,
now we celebration to colorful Holi,
So I've been doing meditation for nearly a decade. I'm 35 and I've been doing meditation since I was 25.
Nick Jonas, US.
Actually 27. Huh?
Priyanka Chopra husband Nick Jonas in this celebration of this Holi. USA, Priyanka Chopra and Nick Jonas. Understand?
No, I didn't understand what you were saying. English is kind of broken up.
I'm saying some time nowadays. Are you understand British language or English?
Well, we're talking about discipline and the utilization of focus and knowledge.
Which language do you want to comfortable you want to talk to me?
I'm speaking in English, but your English is broken.
To which language I will talk to me? I'm speaking from English. Then you cannot understand. I'm saying something nowadays. Today will be celebration of Holi festival. Which type do you feel me?
So,
are you waiting? Say something nowadays. Today celebration of Holi festival, colorful. Then what do you want to feel me?
What? I'm not understanding, my friend. I'm sorry, but I'm going to go back to what I was doing. I just want you to have a blessed day there in India, okay?
Yeah, nowadays Indian country will be celebration of Holi festival. Holi festival are you getting or not getting? Holi, Diwali, this is festival of Hindu in this India country.
Alright, brother, blessings. I do hope that your day is blessed, okay, there in India. I'm trying to disconnect it there because...
Holi festival. This is
Anyway, so I understand that there's a holy festival there in India, and so I just want them all to be blessed there. And so as we focus on this focus and this knowledge that we have inside in this discipline, we will show as a reflection of inspiration, and it takes from within who we are. It takes from within our being. It takes within our discipline and our focus and our knowledge, and it's not always going to be on the day that you're seeking for it to happen. It takes you sitting down and using that kind of vibration, and it's within ourselves that we start to ask those types of questions. What is it that I want to become? What is it that I want to manifest? And it takes a part of ourselves. It takes a part of our being, and each of us have challenges. We have things that we want to overcome, and are you able to? And are you able to truly sit down inside of who you are and inside of your gifts? And want us to ask ourselves those types of questions, and want to inspire you to be you, and to be who you are on the inside, and to be who you are, and to face off against the things that you got to face off against, and to become so focused and to use so much knowledge and discipline that a reflection radiates outwards from within you. It radiates outwards from within your being, and it's within that place that we can find ourselves. And I've been through challenges, and I've faced off against things that I never thought were possible, and I'm standing here in front of you today telling you it's possible. I'm telling you that if you want your dreams, that you have to believe in yourself. If you want your purpose, then you have to go after it. You have to go after your dreams. You have to believe that you can achieve, and that you can do it, and that it's worth it, and you're worth it. And so how do we start to get there? How do we start to want that? How do we start to want to believe in ourselves at that level? And I want you to be inspired to be you. I want you to ask that last part of that question that I ask every day: is what I'm doing today, is it motivation? Is it meditation? Is it inspiration? And if it's not one of the three, I don't want it. And so how do we start to utilize it? How do we start to give ourselves that kind of a place where, and it's interesting because when we see somebody else that's an inspiration, when we see the ripples that they leave, and the things that they do, and the things that they're becoming, and it inspires us to want to do it ourselves. And think about any skill or craft. You'll find that person who's at the top. You'll find that person who is overcoming their challenges, who's putting themselves in a place where they have that ability, where what is going on within is overcoming, where they have that belief in themselves, and they have that ability to make it through their challenges, and they start to open up from within, and that light starts to shine, and that ability starts to become. And there's people that even after they've left the planet, there's still a ripple being left behind. Are you doing that? Are you uplifting people in that way? Are you finding that place inside of yourselves? And how do we start to do so? How do we start to utilize it? How do we start to utilize our challenges, and our focus, and our knowledge, and our disciplines within who we are? And how do we start to become that kind of light? And so here I am in front of you all, and I'm saying it's worth it. I'm telling you that if you use your focus, if you use your knowledge, if you become centered within your being, and you find that discipline within yourself, that you will radiate light outwards, that you will uplift other people, that the tools inside of yourself will work, that your ability will become. And as I close, I just want to say blessings to you all, and blessings, blessings, blessings. As always, namaste.